Hey, what's up, fellow Magic fans? This is Matt here with Just for Fun. Today we're gonna do some set review for Fate Reforged. Start off at the top of the list. Just go through the cards one by one for a little bit. Maybe we'll get through one color at a time. That'll break it up a little bit. We'll talk about limited, constructed, pauper, which is my favorite, casual, flavor, fun, fit, art, all things favorite for, right? So let's start off with the bang here. Ugin? How would you say it? I don't know. The Spirit Dragon, right? 8 mana, colorless planeswalker. Pretty sweet. So, colorless card, yet not an artifact, which is still weird if you're like an original player, like I started in Revised, and seeing colorless cards that aren't artifacts is just weird to me. Anyway, 8 mana planeswalker. 8 mana is a lot, right? I mean, let's break down this guy's abilities. He's super powerful. He starts with 7 loyalty, which is really high, so that's a good thing. Um, which allows him to basically like wrath everything. His minus ability, minus X, exile each permanent with converted mana cost X or less. That's one or more colors. So non-colorless permanents. So he could be in like an artifact ramp deck. He could be in standard. Well, let's save that discussion. Well, in standard, this ability, this minus X ability, goes really well with Nissa, right? Because you can play Nissa turn 5, right? And then next turn play Ugin and minus him, and then you can start making your lands into 4/4s, right? With Nissa, and then those don't die to the Wrath, right? So you've Wrathed, then you can start making 4/4s and lightning striking things every turn, right? So +2 Ugin, 3 damage to target creature or player. That's pretty sweet. Plus ability, and that's +2 loyalty and removing a threat. I mean, when you get this down, it's going to be super hard to lose, right? If you can get them down, bolt something twice, and then ultimate, there's just no way you're going to lose at that point. Like, gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, put up to 7 things on the battlefield for free. That might as well say you win the game, because unless your deck is terrible, it's built around this guy. If you're playing this guy, the deck should be somewhat built around him, and that's just going to win you the game. So in standard, yeah, I could see this being best buddies with Nissa. Uh, could also see it as a finisher in a control deck. Like, I could try him in my mono black control deck that I showed you guys. Hopefully you watched that. If you haven't, go back and watch my mono black standard deck, because it's thick. It's really good. It's budget. This might be a good finisher in that kind of deck. We easily get to 8 mana without any trouble whatsoever. In modern, people will talk about this in Tron, which is a thing. But in that deck, you can play Karn. You can just cast Eldrazi. There's lots of other things you could do. The nice thing about this guy is if you have all his dust, you can play him in that spot, because his minus ability is basically the same thing, and it's upside, right? And he only costs 1 more. Now, I guess costing 8 instead of 7 means you can't play him on turn 3 from a natural Tron. I don't know how big of a deal that is. Most of the time, you're not casting Karn turn 3 anyway, because you have to stabilize first. So, in fact, play this on turn 4 and minus it and into a stable board. I think this is almost better. Karn can only deal with 1 dude at a time, right? This is a good card. I think the fact that it's colorless is a big help too. It helps it fit into lots of decks. So maybe something mana deck could work with this. I think it's a great card. And I look forward to seeing it quite a bit. Although I'm sure I probably won't get to play with it because it's going to cost $30 or more. So Unless we get real lucky and someone gives us some, I don't know. Okay, start with the white cards here. Abzan Advantage, right? Uh, 2 mana instant. Target player sacrifices an enchantment, bolster 1. So bolster is the mechanic for Abzan in this set, and it puts a counter on the creature with the lowest toughness. So it helps strengthen your weakest dude. So that's kind of like bad against sweepers. It's real good in creature stalemate kind of situations. I think this is a weird card that it makes them sacrifice an enchantment instead of removing target enchantment. Um, Non-targeted enchantment removal is kind of unusual. Um, Wise, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how you would get some sacrificing. I don't know. And the bolster seems like, I mean, it seems like a win more kind of mechanic, right? But it is good in limited, especially with the guys like Merrick Nightblade and Einak Bonkan and the counter checkers, as I call them, like the things that give everybody with a counter a bonus. Um, this kind of thing can turn one on at instant speed. So you got to watch that as a trick. So again, interesting. I don't think this is a card that's going to show up in constructed. Uh, as in Rune Mark. So the Rune Marks are another cycle in this set. This set is full of cycles. Cycles meaning group of cards that are mirrored sort of through the colors, or you'll see what I mean by that later. There's 5 Rune Marks, one for each clan. I don't think these are really good either, especially after coming out of Theros with all the enchantments that don't, all the auras that don't have a downside. Something like this, it's like, yeah, if you cast it on a dude that's um, 2 color, right, like black white or black green, or like a black white green Abzan guy, like the Abzan Guide, right? This would be sick on Abzan Guide. Vigilance, lifelink, 6/6, yeah. But the second bonus is conditional. The first bonus is just +2/+2, and if you cast this and they remove it, like you get blown out. So, not really a huge fan of this cycle. In limited, I think it's not good. That said, the only hexproof creatures right now are well, there's some in blue and green, so maybe there can be a spot for like a blue-green hexproof deck, with like Sagumar and the Star Tower Archer and stuff like that. It's interesting, but even then, I'm not sure you play the remarks in that. So this is an eh for me. Okay, Abzan Sky Captain. Uh, okay. Abzan Sky Captain has cool art. I think the flavor text is awesome. It's a bird, it's a soldier. He's like warning everybody, crap is going down. Let's let's be careful. Um, 2/2 flying for 4 is something you might play in limited, but you're not really happy about it. And having a death ability is not as good as like it comes into play or whatever, especially on a flyer, because you don't want your flyer to die. Like you cast this guy, you want him to be getting in there and killing your opponent. And yet it's kind of like, okay, well, at least if it dies, you get something good, but you don't really want it to die. So weird card. Don't really think it's great. Okay. Perishing Cleric, sick art, 1/3, 2 mana, 1/3. You gain 3 life. Kind of decent against aggressive decks. This is kind of what I would consider like a limited sideboard card. right? Like if somebody was playing like an aggro, like a fast aggro deck against me, I might side these in, but I'm not going to main deck it. It doesn't do enough as a card, and there's no way it'll play in constructed. But the art is sick. I love that. I think with each set, the art gets better. It's like they've got more money to invest into the artists, or more artists are attracted to it, or something. But it comes out much better. Like, look at this. This is dope. Look at this dude's wings and the clouds and everything. Even Skirmisher, 1 mana, 1/1 flying. He's a warrior, which is interesting. In limited, if you have Chief of the Edge, this is pretty good. One drop, like evasive one drop. So I might consider trying that out in the Black White Warriors deck, because that deck is craving more one drops, and the 2 mana. I mean, the 1 mana 2/1 ground guys, I don't think are as good as a 1/1 flyer, to be honest, because yeah, they have 2 power, fine, but they can be killed by a goblin token or raise the alarm token, and they can't get through on the ground. So what good is the 2 power if they can't get through? And people aren't playing that many 2 toughness things that you're going to trade up with. So I'd rather just have the flyer that just gets in there and pecks at them. So might be worth a shot. Okay. Channel Harm. Let's talk about this card. Okay. The art is sweet, of course, as is, so far the art in the set is bonkers. Um, the name is dumb. It's a confusing name. It's a 6 mana instant, which is dumb because you're not going to leave 6 mana open to cast an instant. And the wording is terrible. This card suffers from magic wording, right? Like, have you noticed that some things make sense on magic cards that just aren't English? Like, it just doesn't make sense in real life. If somebody said this to a non-magic person, they would have no idea what this card does, because it's just terribly worded. It's a bad card. Don't play it. Just don't. Just let it go. Okay. Now we get to a rare here. Citadel Siege, part of the Siege cycle. I'm not too hot on this cycle. It's a cycle of enchantments that are between 3 and 5 mana, and they don't necessarily have a tremendous effect on the board. They just kind of like do a little something every turn, which is kind of like a planeswalker in a sense. But people are playing a lot of enchantment removal, and I get this like erased is kind of a blowout. So this is a cycle. There's one in each color, basically for each clan, and they're bimodal, which is interesting. Like, you can choose one or the other ability, right? So let's talk about the abilities. Khan's ability is put 2/1/1 counters on a creature you control, which is very for 4 mana. 4 mana to get 2 power and toughness a turn, and you have to have a creature in play. So, like, if you cast this and you don't have any creatures on your board, it's kind of a dead card. So that sucks. It can't really help you come back from behind. Um, it would be much better if it was put a 2/2 in play, right? Like, wouldn't that be much better? Um, Dragons at the beginning of combat, tap target creature on the opponent's turn. So you're preventing one of your opponent's creatures from attacking each turn, which is kind of like martial law, except they can still use their abilities and stuff like that. Not too hot on this card. I I just I don't think it does enough to play it, really. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll play against it and it'll be super annoying. Definitely in limited you want to play this card, but I don't think it's quite there for constructed. Take another break real quick. Okay, so another cycle in this set is the legendary leaders who were like the previous Khans. So this whole set is about going back in time to when the Khans were battling with the dragons, right? So this was Abzan's general back then, uh, Dag Hatar the Adamant. Okay, so it's a pretty impressive name for a dude. I mean, being 4/4 as a human warrior is pretty cool, but he's got vigilance. He's a 4 mana 4/4. He's an easy to cast 4, so he could be in a multicolored deck, which makes sense because his ability is multicolored. Interesting thing about that ability is that you don't have to control the creatures, so you can steal counters from your opponent's creatures. So that's pretty cool. It took me a while to realize that after looking at this card. Excuse me, and not being too impressed with it. But we're so spoiled nowadays that a 4 mana 4/4 vigilance in white with another ability is like, like we're so spoiled, right? Definitely play this in your limited deck. It's always going to be good there. In an Abzan deck, you could really blow people out with this, and there could be something cool with that ability. I think there might be a trick to that. So I'll get my brewing hat on at some point, and we'll see if we can figure something out with this guy. But I guess I think he's going to be a bulk rare, but not the best. If they wanted this guy to be constructed, they would have made him 2 and a colorless. I think he would be much, much better at that level. Dragon Bell Monk. This guy is sweet. I think that prowess is a very interesting ability because it makes me want to make Kiln Fiend kind of decks, right? Because it reminds me of the Kiln Fiend ability. Yet it's kind of an unusual ability in that it's a creature ability that makes you want to play lots of things that aren't creatures in your deck. So there's sort of a tension to it. Also, this guy having vigilance is really nice because he's an insane blocker. How can you attack into this guy and not think you're going to get blown out? I love that he's common. Love the art. I think he's just a badass dude. I wouldn't mess with him, and I could see I could see this being a card. If there weren't another white card in this set that's just way better. But limited, I would play this guy for sure. He's good. Dragon Scale General. This lady is another weird one, right? Like Abzan is all about outlast and toughness and block, right? Block, 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 and then eventually just overwhelm your opponent with giant dudes. And I've said before that I think the outlast ability should have been like you should be able to activate it at instant speed, and then it would be the cards would be much more playable, right? Like, yeah, maybe that would be slightly overpowered, but I don't think so. It would just make combat a little more confusing, but still, like, I don't know. I just think the ability is so boring because it's like you want me to make my dudes bigger so they can block, but I have to tap them. Like I don't, or if instead of making an instant, if they just made it where you could only do it at sorcerer speed, but it didn't tap them, and you could only do it once a turn or something like that. Anyway, so this one is a 4 mana 2/3. I mean, it does bolster a huge amount to a creature if you have a lot of creatures out and they're tapped and you're somehow not dying with having all of your creatures tapped. Like, I guess if you're attacking, like, top end of an aggro deck, but there's so many cards competing for that spot in the Warriors deck, which is really the only viable aggro deck I can see. I just, this card is so meh. Like, I'm not a fan. Alright, looking down at my notes here. Um, this guy seems like, is it just me, or does he seem like he'd be really good in limited, right? Like, if he comes down on an empty board, he's a 5 mana 4/5 with an ability. Um, that's pretty good white, especially. And in this format, 5 mana 4/5 is like just the right size. In this format, it blocks everything. Now, if he comes down and you have something else smaller out, it pumps that thing, which is not bad. But then it's like counters matter, right? This is a payoff card for the counters matter theme, and I think this card is dope and limited, right? Like it's not good enough for constructed, but it's really good. I like him a lot. We have a generic vanilla. I don't know when beasts became white. Like I guess in the desert, beasts are white. It's like I just used to this being like this should be a green card, right? I don't know. But 5 mana 3/5. Elephant. What is that guy called? You know what I'm talking about. They threw this in like every the 3 Pure Bloods. This has been in everything in 10 different versions. Nothing to say about that. Orange Reward, dope. Or look how the it's like raining and the light is like illuminating the rain shadows. Like oh, that's just so sick art. Um, terrible card. It just gains life, and if you have a creature, it pumps it. I mean, yeah, it could be a combat trick that like gains you life as a bonus, but I don't like bolster because you can't you don't have a lot of control over what creature you're pumping, so it might not always work out. So I don't think that bolster is really great. Um, Anything where you don't get a choice is not as good, right? Um, Jeskai Barricade, another sick piece of art. Like this set, they're knocking it out of the park with art. This card I could see in constructed, and I'll tell you why. It's just it is just a huge roadblock against any aggro deck, right? Like it's got blocks, it's got instant speed blocks. So let's say you're playing against red and they hammer hand their dude, right, and then they attack. They can't make this not block because it wasn't in play when they played their hammerhand, right? So very nice. Um, Plus, you can use it to save another one of your dudes that's being targeted by removal, right? It's like you save a dude, you block a dude, you get all kinds of value. Great card, definitely great card. Okay, so um, manifest. This is another one of the mechanics in this strange mechanic format, right? So manifest the card, put it onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2. Turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it's a creature card. I don't know why they call it manifest. I guess that's flavorful. These are like pre-morphs, right? This is like maybe it's the story of where morphs came from. Like people were wizards were manifesting things, and then that they sort of evolved into like two manifest creatures had a baby, and then it became a morph. Like, is that what happened? um, so this is pretty cool though, in a sense that it's 3 mana for a 2/2 flying lifelink. That's decent. I would play that in limited, right? And there's the potential upside that you could flip up whatever the thing is, and if it happens to be a creature, it gets flying and lifelink. So, I mean, it could work as a trick also. Um, Things that stink about this are it makes it. Uh, Now, maybe I'm wrong. No, I guess I'm totally wrong. If you kill light form, then it's still a 2/2. It just doesn't have flying and lifelink anymore. Okay, so that's not that bad. I was thinking at first if you killed light form that the creature would die too, but it doesn't. But interesting. This is the kind of thing you got to watch out for. There might be some really go deep on manifest. So there's a lot of cards with that mechanic in the format. You get all sorts of little tweaks on it, and this is a very interesting one. This is probably one of the better ones. I think the blue one might be the best, scariest one. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Lotus Eye Mystics. This is an aggressively costed prowess creature, I think. 4 mana, 3/2 is bigger than most of the prowess guys were a little small. This guy's pretty aggressive. And he has that Auramancer ability. So that's kind of cool. So there could be a deck where you load up on auras and go nuts with this kind of guy. I think he's good. I'd play him. I think he's pretty good. Stardew Vori. Sick, ridiculous art. Sick flavor. 1 mana, 2/1. He's a warrior and he has a graveyard ability, right? Kind of. You're gonna see him. This guy's gonna be around in various aggressive decks. Um, I think I think he's really good against whip. He's good for racing. He's good with tokens. I think a mono white token strategy with like triplicate spirits, which I still think should be a card. Um, I think it's great. I think that yeah, everything. I got nothing bad to say about this guy. Um, Mastery of the Unseen. Now, this card I don't get. Like I don't get it. I mean, I guess it's meant for control decks, but Heliod didn't see any play, and that I think Heliod is a better card than this card. I mean, it cost 4 to put out, but it had a higher upside, which was having a 5/7 indestructible dude, as opposed to gaining life for flipping up things. Like incidental life gain is not as good as 5/7 indestructible dude, even for 2 mana at less. And, yeah, I mean, unless I'm sleeping on Manifest, unless there's some kind of trick to that that makes it better than it sounds, I'm gonna make a bold prediction that this is not gonna make any waves. I don't think it's a playable card. I mean, a lot of people much better than me at Magic have been saying to watch this card and look out for it, and that it's gonna be something to be reckoned with. But I don't see it. I don't see it. Now this card, on the other hand, is obscene. Monastery Mentor. They were like, you like young Pyro, right? Like, what if we take him and just turn him to 11, right? We'll, we'll give him prowess, we'll give him another toughness, and we'll make him make dudes with prowess. And just, like, it's an incredible clock. I think if people start playing this, you're going to have to play, like, it makes me want to play, like, 4 Anger of the Gods main deck, or, like, definitely sweepers. Because how else are you going to get rid of this guy? It's going to take. This is like Drag Tusk all over again. You're going to need more than one spear to get rid of this guy, and he's just going to be a giant pain in the ass. He's super good. Obviously, play him in every deck. Play him in every format. He's going to be. You could play him in Vintage. This card is that good. Um, I could see this card in every format. I mean, people have been saying that white isn't the best color for this kind of card. I think that's bunk. I think the mana bases are so good in most formats that you can play 5 color decks in any format without too much trouble. And so, like, I think that's a cop out. This guy, even if he's the only white card in your deck, he's insane. Okay, or play him in Legacy with Swords to Plowshares, or in Modern with Path to Exile. And just good. Oh, I'm like, my brain is steaming out at how good this guy is, how overpowered he is. Anyway, he's a home run card. The art is amazing. The perspective and the shadow. Oh, it's just incredible. He just seems like such a badass. He's like the dude in the kung fu movies that nobody f's with, right? He's like that one dude. He's quiet, and they're like sensei, and he comes out and like the bad guy comes in the temple and he beats up all the students, and then this guy comes out and just murders the guy. That's this guy right here. That's the mentor. Pressure point concept. I think it costs 1 too much for what it does. The art is cool, but it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, if you knock out the dragon with the pressure point while you're riding on his head, won't you fall and die? I don't think that's worth your martyrdom there, bro. Like, I don't know. It confuses me, but I mean, it's a decent trick, right? But I don't know. Rally the Ancestors. This is one of those weird return to the ranks kind of immortal servitude cards that they keep making over and over that I don't know who in design is in love with, but I think it's a waste of a spot. The only thing I can understand, if I understand how this works correctly, it just makes surprise blockers, and if they have come into play effects, you get a bonus. Or I don't see this as being a playable card. Like, it's definitely a build around, and there might be somebody out there who can do something fun with that card and make a deck of it. But maybe with Perforos or something, like dump your whole deck in the yard and then cast this and Perforos for 1 billion. I mean, I just think there are better things you can be doing with Magic cards than that card. So, um, Siege's Reverie is insane. Again, there could be some kind of hexproof aura deck in standard. Um, I wish this card was a common because in Pauper I would put this in my hexproof deck because it just draws you a whole new hand. It's pretty sweet. um, Unfortunately, it says specifically each aura you control that's attached to a creature. It does mean no, which means it doesn't work with like banishing light and suspension field because that would be good. Um, so anyway, I think it's or Chain to the Rocks doesn't work with that either. Um, so that's what holds it back. Maybe that line of text should just be for each enchantment you control. And then the second line, I think that would be fine. You know, um, Sandblast. Okay, so this is a good trick. This is a great removal spell. It's almost like a cheaper Divine Verdict, but it just can't kill giant things. But I think it's better than Divine Verdict. I would definitely draft and play Sandblast because it's attacking or blocking creatures, so it works both aggressive decks and defensive decks. I think it's a great card. Always play that in your limited deck. Sandstep Outcast, I think, is great. This is another card I love. So it's 3 mana for 3 power, basically, and you get to choose if you want on one body or split up over two. Kind of reminds me of that really, really fruity looking guy, Songbirds in Ravnica, Seller of Songbirds, something like that. But that was a 1/2, and this is 2/1, and that makes a huge difference, right? I think this is great in an aggressive deck. Very interesting card. Um, Love it. Love everything about it. Manifest card. I think if you were going to explain Manifest to somebody, this is the card you would show them. It's basic. It's like Grizzly Bear, but white and a sorcery. So it triggers prowess, which is interesting, right? It's an interesting card. I'm not sure what to think of Manifest. I think it's one of those things we're going to have to play with a while to figure out how good it is. Um, Soulfire Grandmaster is a bonkers mythic with a hybrid activation. So let's break this card down one at a time. 2 mana the easy way for a 2/2. Okay, fine, reasonable. Lifelink. Okay, fine, reasonable. Still not great. Instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink. That is a very interesting line of text. The thing that troubles me about that is to really take advantage of that. You'd have to be heavy burn, and then I don't really want to be playing a 2 mana 2/2 heavy burn deck. I mean, yeah, because then you have to use it to kill their creatures only. And if they play anything big, you're not getting through. So it's kind of like just a minor upside. it doesn't really push it over the top for me. And then the other ability, the next time you cast an instant or sorcery from your hand, put that card into your hand instead of your graveyard as it resolves, so you can. It's like 4 mana, add buyback to a spell, which is it's almost broken. I would call this card completely broken if it was an enchantment or something like that. But 4 mana is a lot. Number one. Number two, this is a two. This is a 2/2. This dies to a stiff breeze, right? So I'm not sure. I guess it's one of those things where if you have the answer to it, it's not going to do much. But if the opponent doesn't have an answer to it, you could use it to gain um, some advantage. But I'm not sure the advantage is enough. So it does curve into the other guy, the mentor, but I'm not sure you play these two in the same deck. I don't know. You could. There's not enough white. I mean, I guess cantrippy things could be good, or just like a red white burn deck. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Prove me wrong. But I'm not sure about that guy. Boundary stance. This is great. This goes perfectly into blue white heroic, right? You can target a creature to save your creature by giving it indestructible and triggering heroic. Or you can use it to destroy a big guy on the other side if you're racing. Um, I think this is a sweet card. I would always play this in limited. I think it's gonna be played in constructed. It's just pretty sweet. Wandering Champion, I think is a win more card. I think if you like 2 mana 3/1s always end up being worse than how you feel they're going to be, right? Like um, you they're going to get in there for a lot of damage really quick, and but anything they want them. Any dumb idiot can kill them, like any token or whatever. So they're not going to be getting through that much. And then the other ability tacked on, if it deals combat damage to a player and you control blue or red permanent, you can rummage. Um, that's some slight value, and I guess you could get value off of him, but I wouldn't play this guy, especially in limited. There's too many morphs that you could just trade. I mean, I don't think it's good. Um, and another cycle here, we have these 6 mana uncommon dragons that are 4/4 flyers, right? And they all have an ability. Of them, I think this is the most interesting one because I like its ability. It's unusual. It's not like anything I can think of. As long as it's attacking, defending player can't cast spells. So, sort of limits combat tricks, makes opponent play their removal before you attack them with the dragon. Um, that said, I mean, and big flyers are always good and limited. I don't think you could play. I think mana for a 4/4 flyer is pretty small as far as constructed goes. I don't think we would see these cards in constructed, but it would have been nice if they made some smaller, cheaper dragons. I think that would have incented you to play like a dragon kind of deck. I was really excited for this to come out, this set, thinking that we could build some kind of dragon theme deck, but the cards just aren't there. They're all just big dummy dragons. They're not like competitive dragons, right? But this card is interesting. I like the ability. It's an unusual ability, and I'll be interested to see how it plays out. So that's all the white in the set. We'll be back with the rest of the colors. Peace out.